My name is Rachel Smith, and I lead the Air Products industrial gas and hydrogen business for Canada. Air Products is building a world-scale net zero hydrogen energy complex right here in the Edmonton region. This transformative facility will be a first mover in helping to decarbonize various sectors in Alberta, including refining, petrochemical, power generation, and transportation. There are a few places in the world that have the natural resources, the geology, the talent, the infrastructure, and the political will to lead the emerging hydrogen economy and drive the energy transition forward. And Alberta is one of those places. Alberta is a leading player in Canada's energy transition and the emerging hydrogen economy. Having several unique strengths, Alberta is an ideal location for investments in clean hydrogen production. These include natural gas resources, viable geology for sequestration, existing infrastructure, and a highly skilled workforce. From the beginning, Air Products has deeply appreciated the partnerships of the Government of Alberta, the Government of Canada, as well as the continued support of the City of Edmonton. A world-scale facility like our Net Zero Hydrogen Energy Complex touches many governmental departments and agencies. Invest Alberta helped us navigate that complex journey. This landmark facility shows what's possible when effective collaboration and governmental support align to drive the energy transition forward.
Good afternoon. Welcome. It's great to be back in Hong Kong. I'm based out of Calgary and Edmonton and spent most of my time on the road. This is the third trip for me into Hong Kong since the events of the last couple of years, and I actually was here for the final time when you had to quarantine. And so I did the last quarantine and have been part of that. Thanks, Ben, for the introduction. It's always great to have him join you because we're really good. To talk a little bit about what's going on. We like having our clients speak for us, and you saw a little bit of Air Products, a worldwide innovator, talk a little bit about why they came to Alberta. And it really, at the end of the day, they are one of many companies in Asia that have come in the last couple of years. You may have seen on our announcement from POSCO Holdings out of Korea, which is going to be investing in a specific resource that we think is very valuable, and that would be in the exploration and development of lithium. And so we want to structure and work with large partners from around the world to make that happen. Indian tech companies Emphasis and Infosys, and two other ones have made Calgary home in the last couple of years, creating almost 10,000 jobs. We haven't talked about that a lot publicly because of some of the constraints we're facing around some of the relationships between Canada and India, but we're continuing to see an incredible level of interest from those markets. We're also, of course, have announced our partnerships with the Tochu and Petronas, two other large players here in this region that we want to move forward with. So Alberta is committed to moving things forward and working together as we move the market forward. Sumitomo, of course, out of Japan, and ourselves are in the middle of an accelerated renewable energy strategy as well. And so I want to talk a bit in today's panel about how some of those partnerships came to be, how we move them forward, and what we can do to dive deeper into the discussion on energy security and food security. And at the end of the day, when we come to Asia and we're talking to investors, we're talking to government, you will hear that phrase, energy security and food security, a lot. And why does Alberta want to play a critical, or can Alberta play a critical role in that? Well, we have some of the best wind and solar resources in North America. Most people don't realize this, but we get more sunshine than Cairo, Egypt, in the southern part of our province. And so we've accounted for almost 75% of the renewable energy investment in Canada over the last couple of years. Best example of that is the relationship we've built with AWS Amazon. So they put one of their largest data centers in North America, a $4.5 billion investment into Calgary. And they did that primarily because they can actually fund and run that center on 100% green energy, which is one of their long-term focuses. In fact, they buy more green energy than they need for that facility from Alberta, and they export the additional credits back into the US to make their US business more green. And they can do that because we have a competitive energy system in Alberta. So you can actually create your own production and sell it into the grid. It's a little bit different than what people do in the rest of Canada, where you have to deal with a BC Hydro or an Ontario Hydro. In Alberta's case, it's a completely competitive industry. So Invest Alberta is focused on building beyond energy because we believe strongly that there's agri-tech, clean tech, fintech, AI, and life sciences opportunity. Most people don't realize that, but Edmonton has some of the most best talent in AI anywhere in North America. Edmonton has been running the AI Center through Amy for a number of years now. So it's not just about talking about it, what we've actually been able to build deep expertise in that particular area. So I call it the perfect storm of investment and innovation, and it's something we really want to work hard on to move forward. Calgary is also seeing an incredible growth in the tech ecosystem. So where in the past year, tech has seen a dramatic slowdown in terms of investment, in terms of people moving forward. We had another record year in Alberta last year in terms of tech investment. Now one of the top 20 growth markets in the world in terms of tech innovation. So that's something that we want to continue to drive because we believe that energy has created an amazingly interesting foundation for us. How do we take that further? On the food side and food security side, we want to use technology to double and quadruple our production. Alberta food and Canadian food in general is known around Asia as being really high quality and really helpful. But at the end of the day, we are not as productive as the Europeans are, for example, in the amount of production that we do in food. And that's because we don't leverage technology to the degree that we need to. So a lot of work that we're currently doing is based on that. And we do that by making sure that we help people cut red tape to move things forward. So for example, one of our investors needed some permits and applications approved so they could actually start work on their property. We got that approved within 7 days. So where North America has a bit of a reputation here in Asia of moving slowly, Invest Alberta removes red tape to actually help people move things forward. For those of you who were at the Christmas banquet last Christmas, you heard me tell the story of Dow, so I'm not going to repeat that. But we have measurable success where we help investors move forward fast, because time is money, and we could do some really cool things there by helping people move forward. So I talked a little bit about Dow at last year's Christmas banquet, and we were really pleased to finalize that investment. So just before the end of the year last year, Dow announced their largest investment ever in Cleantech, a $10 billion investment on a brand new facility they're building just outside of Edmonton. And so we continue to build on this momentum, and we want to share a little bit with you on that. And we've got a really cool panel to make that happen today. So I'd like to invite Dr. Chen Fong, who's co-chair of the Global Strategy Board for the Creative Disruption Labs and of CDL, and of course also one of my board members, to join me on stage this afternoon. Jimmy Lai, who's the Senior Investment Manager from Saltogen Ventures. Jimmy, if you could join me as well. And finally, please join me in welcoming Andrew Sandern, co-founder and president, Intrinsic Venture Capital. And he'll talk a little bit about how Intrinsic is helping bring investment from Asia into Alberta as well. So please join me in welcoming these panelists. Thank you for being here today. I'm going to start with a question for all of you, and you can pick in whatever order you'd like to answer. Let's talk about trends. What are Asian investors looking for in 2024 when investing in North America? What are you hearing? What are you seeing?
Okay. Okay, before I launch into that, I'm really appreciative that Rick's working so hard. This is the third trip here. Okay, so I have been in Alberta for 40 years. Okay, and I've been through a few cycles. And one observation is that every time there's a cycle peak, everyone comes to invest. Okay? And when things in the cycle bottom, everyone runs away. Right? It's like a land crawford having a sale. Everybody runs away. Okay? When you launch a new product at the peak, everybody comes. Okay? It didn't make any sense to me. So it's really good that Rick's running around telling stories, that there's a real business to be had, and please don't come at the cycle peak. I'm really, I can see so many friends of mine lost money, and it doesn't make us feel good. So it's really good that Rick's generating awareness. Okay, so fundamentally, what we see is that there's some really structural changes happening in Alberta right now. Okay, so historically, I just give you an example. Okay, I was building a software company, and it was a major struggle because I compete with the oil and gas industry for talent. And these guys are the elephant in the room. They have so much money. Okay? So I became the training ground for those guys, and I hired a young guy and train them and get really good. Someone pays double the wages, and they're gone. Okay, so my turnover is tremendous. But now fundamentally, with the downturn in the energy sector, in the oil and gas sector, I shouldn't say the energy sector, the mentality is really different now. The oil and gas guys are not like growth at any cost theme anymore. Okay, so they are a lot more cost conscious, and they are focusing on return to the shareholders. Okay? So then they in itself is not like growing crazy and hiring from everybody. So as a result of that, the tech sector really flourished. Okay? So Alberta being a really entrepreneurial place, and a number of people now left the energy sector and got into the technology space. So suddenly there's a massive growth of startup companies, and some of them are doing extremely well. Okay, and, there's a couple unicorns, and so we are excited about that because we need to diversify the economy, and thanks to the change in thinking and in mentality. Okay. And the second thing second comment I want to make on that theme is that it takes energy people to understand energy. Okay, because we see so many so-called green companies. I don't know if you guys invested in any green funds. Okay, and chances are you would not have made money. Okay, simply because energy is a lot more about just production, it's about distribution, it's about storage, it's about whole spectrum of expertise that is needed. And that's where Alberta has the advantage, because traditionally people came from the energy industry. I'm starting to see really smart VC funds coming to Alberta because they understand that if I funded a startup company and with a new technology, these are guys understands how to use it. Okay. So that's why I think when Rick mentioned earlier that 70% of the Cleantech side in Alberta is for a reason.
I can't emphasize enough how much we love Chan, as Chan gave us a lot of good deals in Canada, in Alberta. I echo so much with what Chan said. I think when the market is a bit down, it's exactly investors' market where we eliminate a lot of bad startups where they got their valuation so high in the past few years. I think now is exactly the investors' market, and we love to meet startups as we hear much more about how they can secure path to profitability, either if they're pre-revenue, how they can accelerate coming back the money, or their post-revenue, how they can make more. So I think what Chan said about return to shareholders, that's exactly what we want to hear, and not just about dreams. Where my experience meeting Alberta startups, I feel like they're really down to earth, and I really like the people there. And we probably want to see more startups that would tell us how they can make money.
I may be a bit biased because I'm based out of Alberta, but I can talk from the perspective of the founders that we bring into Alberta from primarily the Asian market, and they come for a variety of reasons. But one thing that I've noticed is they appreciate the diversity of talent that we have. So they're interacting with people from over 100 different countries, multiple language bases, multiple upbringings, foundations, educational foundations. And they get a different way of thinking in their company. So they're able to grow a lot faster than they may grow in their home country. And another part of that is the quality of life. So can't speak highly enough. I know Rick mentioned the sunny days. We get about 90% sunshine in our province. If I compare that with, Toronto, out of Eastern Canada, they've had 30 hours of blue sky this winter. So just saying. And it's just amazing what that does for your, I guess, your mood, your happiness, your energy. So people work hard in Alberta, but we play hard. You can see the Rocky Mountains behind me. And that does an incredible thing for your business, for your employees, the growth that can facilitate in your company. From an investor perspective, we historically have been very tied to the US. And we often hear that American investors love investing in Canadian companies for two reasons. One is the dollar. They get a huge, bang for their buck. So if they invest in a Canadian company, they get lower priced talent because of the dollar, but they also benefit from the substantial grant ecosystem that we have in Canada and in Alberta. So for early stage companies, scale ups, even for large companies, there are substantial government grants available to help spur economic growth.
Thank you. That's a great introduction. Dr. Fong, when you think about Alberta, and you are an incredibly successful investor, you're very modest, so you won't talk about that a lot. I'm going to make you talk about that a little bit. What do you think is Alberta's unique value proposition that has allowed you to be so successful?
I think the key component is the entrepreneurial spirit. Okay, because this is if you look at it after the Second World War, this was a place of 300,000 people. Right now it's close. Calgary is 300,000 people. Now it's close to 2 million. And people come because they know this is a place that you can really grow, and it's a very stable, lovely place to live, and for those reasons. But the key issue is the entrepreneurial spirit. People, generally speaking, people have the sense that if I have a problem, I fix it. Okay, and it's not relying on anybody else for handouts and stuff, right? So, this entrepreneurial spirit, it's kind of the culture from the early days when the city was born, and that just perpetuated and of course attracted the like-minded people. So that in itself, I think is one of the key elements of our success, if you.
I think that's a really valid point, and one thing I didn't realize when I moved into Alberta is that Alberta actually has one of the largest contingents of U.S. expats. In fact, the consulate tells me it's the largest contingent of U.S. expats anywhere in the world. And so we have a beautiful combination of not only the Canadian entrepreneurial spirit, but some of that American thinking that comes to the table as well. So I think that's another piece to add to that.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add?
The other thing is that I find it really interesting is that the universities, we have two really good universities and a bunch of others, and everyone is now waking up and realize that we have so much good research and we can commercialize it. Okay, so University of Calgary, for example, has more spin-out companies for 3 years in a row, vis-a-vis their Canadian counterparts. So there's a lot of things that people now really realizing that being an academic, fighting my way up to become a professor is my career path. People now realize that there's more career paths than just being a professor. Okay, so I see many postdocs and became tremendous business people, and through that journey. So you got a really talented, technical, smart people, and now they are going into business. Okay. So that's a really good attribute, for a province to have. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Jimmy, I understand you visited Calgary for the first time a few months ago. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience? Soldigen is an organization under Joseph Fung's leadership that has been working on coming to Alberta for a number of years. Tell me a little bit about what you experienced, especially when it comes to the tech ecosystem.
Sure. Actually, not just Calgary, but first time in Canada. I actually are in love with Calgary. When I came back, all my mugs, I took a photo to Joanna that I had a Calgary mug, and then Calgary on my t-shirt. I spent only 5 days in Calgary, but thanks to Dr. Chen Feng's taking care of me, and of course meeting a lot of interesting people, met a lot of great entrepreneurial startup people, and I must say I love Calgary more than Toronto. Okay, I see some reactions here. They didn't pay me for this, by the way, okay? I would say growing up in Hong Kong, I'm born and raised here, I have never heard about Alberta at all, like Calgary. I don't know, like when my boss sent me there, I was like, do I take a train there or whatever? Like, it's actually true. Before this, I'm just all my life in Hong Kong. So to me, it's everything blank. I would say naturally I spend more time in Toronto. I do feel it's a lot. There are a lot of similarities. I would say I don't feel difficult in Toronto. It's a city, and a lot of my startups are based there. So I meet them, I join them. But the moment I stepped into Calgary, of course, it's very different from how I would feel in Hong Kong. It's much more spacious. People there are hungry, I would say, and they're more active because naturally they know that they struggle more, or they would do more to show. And I definitely feel people there are more excited, or because the events that I was invited there, I was there for CDL. During my conversations there, they're very passionate and really hope that I would come back for summer for Stampede. I can feel like the room it's like more like a family. I would say I'm looking forward going back. And once I came back to Hong Kong, I even asked people, if I have to invest, if I have to buy a house, I probably would look at the houses in Calgary. So that's how excited about Calgary during my trip. Back to the question, right? Like the tech ecosystem. As Chen said, because we at Solgen Invest, we are a deep tech investor, we do care about your researches and how unique your technology. And that's why during my conversation in Calgary and to a lot of scientists, I do feel like they have a good blend of having good research and also the ability to bring them, to commercialize them, and that's exactly what we're looking for.
It does all my work for me. I just have to listen. Thank you. Andrew, let's talk about organizations focused on bringing Asian investments to Alberta. What's your experience from working with Asian-based startups looking to set up in Alberta?
I think there's a lot of, well, like Jimmy said, not many people know Alberta when we talk about it firstly. So when you look at my business card, I actually have a picture similar to this on my business card to actually show why you want to be there. But once they actually visit, it's really hard not to convince them to come. So whether that's to move their families or just open an office, I find the interest is there. So the biggest part about what we do is how do we market Alberta and the opportunities, and I think the work that Rick does super helpful to the work that we do. So back to what I said earlier, just quality of life is a huge part of what we're doing. Talking to individuals about the value of landing a company in Canada and in Alberta, and helping them understand that when you land a company in any market, there's a significant amount of risk. So make sure that they align themselves with organizations and individuals that can help them. And that's the work that we do. So we work with individuals on a multi-year basis. It's not a decision that investors or founders make quickly. Sometimes it takes a year before they're convinced that they want to move, and then it might take another year or two before they actually make that move. and another year or two before they actually, have predictable revenue. So we're there. I think that's the value that Alberta brings, is a continued relationship. Talk about it being the Wild West in some sense. Huge risk-taking attitude in Alberta. But I think what Jimmy said is we actually pick up and work hard to solve problems. Sorry, Dr. Fong said that. So Albertans are problem solvers. So we don't necessarily wait for somebody to solve our problems. We will work hard. We'll find the people that can help us to solve our own problems. And the founders that we bring, we connect them into the network so they can also find the right resources to solve their problems.
Thank you for that. Jimmy, I'm going to come back to you for a second. Can you talk about investment? It's important, I think, for this audience, for any audience, to have a real example. Can you give us a bit of a case study of a recent investment?
Sure. Thanks to your help as well, and Dr. Chen Fong's, I think we get a chance to meet Geologic AI. Geologic AI, as you know from the name, they are just basically doing AI in geology. They replace, or I shouldn't say replace, this may soon to be, but they help geologists to scan the rocks, to realize what are inside, what are the minerals. This disrupted the market and would saves so much time, because you would now be only drilling, mining places that matters. And with the AI learning, all the core service, they just get more accurate. And this would be particularly important in future, because when we talk about net zero, there are a lot of minerals that are essential in making those, even like solar panel, whatever. And Geologic AI that's why such an exciting company to invest in, not to mention being able to co-invest with Bill Gates' Breakthrough Ventures. They just invested 20 million in them. We're very, it is one of the most exciting deals that we've made last year.
And why do you think that Bill Gates has clued into the fact that this is a good place to be? We get a lot of investment from KKR, one of the largest agencies for the world. Why do they come to this market? What attracts them in your mind?
I think it's just because it's a good asset, right? Like, I mean, it's sometimes I can't conclude and say because Alberta is a good place to invest, but I would say Alberta definitely, how do you say, like breed these great startup. I would say people there are real problem solvers. When I talk to Grant, the CEO of the company, I feel like he's very down to earth. I guess Chen can supplement a little bit here. And to me, they're just people who are actually working with very solid grounds.
So basically, investors need to make money, okay? So Bill Gates didn't do this for charity. Yeah, I can assure you, okay? So yeah, Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos has a fund called Breakthrough Energy Ventures, and they invested in this company. And I think that's probably their first in Canada. And it's for a reason, because this thing, really, I mean, we are, I think going to face a crisis in the minerals, especially in copper, because an electric vehicle has 5 times the copper of a internal combustion. My internal combustion car has 23 pounds of copper, and my other EV car has 100 pounds of copper. Okay? So the world's going to need a lot of more minerals and energy, and Alberta has tons of them. So that's the short answer. So.
Absolutely. And Dr. Fong, you joined the board of Invest Alberta when it was formed. Premier Jason Kenney invited you as one of the founding board members. You have enough on your plate as it is. You're a very busy guy. What have you seen Invest Alberta do, or what strategies is it deploying that are attracting investment from Asia?
I think, thanks to your predecessor and yourself, that I think Invest Alberta is structured properly in that it's like a business. There's KPIs, okay? And, there's accountabilities and, I mean, well, you brought in over $20 billion of investments into Alberta, and you know, and we keep track of all these things. A lot of these other investment offices, they are more like a marketing agency, and you know, you don't have to keep track of what do they really do. Okay, whereas your bet is online.
And Dr. Fung will tell you that we spend a lot of time in our board meetings talking about how we provide an amazing experience for investors, right? And the cool part there is there's some people that do this really well around the world. So whether it's in Ireland or Singapore, we've modeled ourselves to a large degree on that basis, rather than trying to reinvent the wheels. If Singapore House knows how to do this well, then we can build from there, then we're in good shape. Final questions for each of the panelists, and we've got a bit of time, so I'd like you to expand a little bit in your answers. At the end of the day, if there's one thing you want each of the people that are here today to walk away with, one piece of advice or one take-home message you would like the audience to have, what would it be?
That's a tough one. I'm thinking of the value of relationships. So if I were to promote Alberta and why I love being in Alberta and why I see myself staying in Alberta indefinitely, even though I love traveling, I love to come to Hong Kong and Asia. Once you land a customer in Alberta, it is very difficult to lose that customer. They're not going to shop around for lower prices. They're not going to shop around for another supplier. If you treat them well, they will stay loyal to you. And I think when I think about feedback for anyone thinking about doing business in Alberta, find someone who can give you that warm introduction. Don't come there assuming you can just get into the market right away. Don't think that you can operate from your presence in Asia remotely. That likely will not work, or you'll see significant challenges, significant risk. Actually visit, make friends, and I emphasize friends. It's not just business relationships. When I bring founders to Canada, we become friends. So I had a layover in Vancouver. I met somebody that I brought over 4 years ago just for coffee when I was in Vancouver. We become very close. We solve each other's problems. They're no longer just business relationships. So visit Alberta. Make sure you meet a lot of people. People are nice. I think a lot of us are very weary of new relationships. But I'd hate to say it, cliche, but trust Albertans.
And I would add to that, the feedback that we get from a lot of tech investors, the piece that shocks them is how sticky their employees are. Yeah. So we've had a number of organizations that tried opening up in places in the US, in Connecticut, in Silicon Valley, and then they weren't able to attract the talent. And because of the amazing immigration laws Canada has, thanks to the federal government, and the affordability of housing in specific markets, they're finding it not only easier to attract staff, but they're also easier to retain. So they're not having people turn on them every 3 months. So if you're a technology investor, one of the critical pieces is talent. And I think it's really important that investors recognize that in Alberta, you can have great talent arrive and they stay. And that's really important for your long-term success. Jimmy? Sorry. Was there something you wanted? No?
Good.
Okay, Jimmy?
If I can piggyback on that point, a friend of mine from Bay Area started a new company, and he built it in Calgary. He commutes every weekend, to go home. And so that company grew massively, and he sold it for $500 million in 3 years, and a couple of hundred employees, and simply because the people he recruited are vested and they are really a part of the company, and it's not like someone gives me a better deal, another tech company, I can get them a little bit more seed stock, then I'm gone. It didn't have that kind of culture. So for a tech company, it's a real advantage to have a stable workforce.
Absolutely. Jimmy,
now, if an oil and gas company pays you twice, it's a different story.
Yes. What would be the one piece of advice you'd want people to have?
During my last visit in Canada, I really want to say it's really important post-COVID now to resume the face-to-face interaction. Part of our due diligence is really important to assess the person and even the team. I do feel, well, I have always been having a sense that Canadians are nice, but I never know how nice, how far you can go. I can feel it, especially when I visit a Canadian company, the moment when the founder, I've always seen him on Zoom, like multiple Zoom calls, but when I see him in the office, the first thing was to introduce the whole team. Like he greeted me and told everybody about, oh, this is Jimmy, he's our investor, potential investor, whatever, want him to meet every one of you. And I can tell they are equally excited, like the staff, because like probably if you work in a startup, you probably need to believe in that as well. And that's how I can tell whether they're sticky and whether they really love their job. And you can believe that they're the team that you want to invest in. So sometimes when investments is about researches or doing due diligence, I would say just trust your eyes and ears. Really go into the battlefield and observe how they're actually doing stuff and how they're talking, how the team works. I think these are stuff that I actually learned during the trip, especially during CDL. I've seen investors, responsible investors, they don't just put in money. Instead, they put in a lot of their networks, connections, helping ventures to build together and collaborate together, and not just expecting they would give you returns right away. So I learned to be a more responsible investor as well, going into the field, learning their pain points, see what I can help, and try to be, and learn to be that Canadian nice as well.
Thank you for that. Dr. Fong, if there was one piece of advice that you'd want people in this room to walk away with, what would that be?
Well, we have a lot to talk about, and if I can just digress for 1 minute, okay? Absolutely. So one thing we didn't talk about is the Creative Destruction Lab. In my earlier session, there wasn't enough time, and that has really made a deep impact in Alberta in terms of in a technology system. It's a system whereby mentors people like myself. There's 1,000 of us, okay, and we mentor these young companies and help them grow. It's a part of a course of the university for MBA students. That's why it's called a lab. Okay, lab is a practical way for MBA students to learn entrepreneurship. So we've been going since 2012, and since then we measure our success by the market cap of the enterprise value of the companies we help to create. And since 2012, we created now close to $35 billion worth of enterprise value. Okay, so when we launched in Calgary in 2017, really brought the technology companies together and created the ecosystem. And since 2017, we created about $4 billion just in Alberta alone in terms of enterprise value. So there's a lot of activities there, and so when you come, okay, come and visit us and be part. We are welcoming, be part of the system. We're here for everybody.
Thank you for that, and you've been the driving force behind CDL not only in Calgary, but around the world. You've done a ton of work on that file, so thank you for that. Still not letting you off the hook, though. What's the one piece of advice that you want to give this room before we wrap up?
Don't come at the market peak. Okay. Yeah, I'm by nature that I hate it when other people lose money. Yeah, that's why I don't manage money for anyone, because I can't sleep. Yeah. So I take advices and suggestions very seriously, and I always tell people, if you co-invested with me, just remember, when you lose money, I lost a lot more than you do. Okay, so it's really important. I always have skin in the game, Okay? And if I showed you anything, and you know, but it's really important. I share with you a story. Okay, there's one guy I invested with, and I lost all my money. Okay, and 10 years later, I bumped into the guy, and I said, hey, John, how are you doing? And he said, well, he was really bitter. He said, if you guys didn't give me money, I would not waste the 10 years of my life. Now, I was taken aback. I thought, it's not very gracious. But then I thought about it. He's absolutely right. Okay, because by me giving him money, it's a responsibility. If I think he's not the right guy, I shouldn't just be a nice guy and I support you. Okay, that's the wrong thing to do. So you have to use judgment. Yeah? And this is where CDL comes in, right? So yeah, come with eyes open. We are really welcoming. When you come to Alberta, you realize that this is a really strange place in that everyone will help you. It's like people will go out of their way to welcome you. And I was talking to a lady from India, and she said, when I came, it was so uncomfortable because everyone's so nice to me. It's like, what do you want from me? We don't have anything. Okay? But that's not what it is. The culture is that people would really, really welcome you and help you.
Thank you for those thoughtful responses, all of you on the panel. A reminder to our audience that if North America is in your plans, we would love to engage with you in that. Our local team is here today. I don't know where they're hiding, but there they are. So Karen is also not here, but Kevin Chui and Joanna Chan are both here often. Kevin's based in Beijing. Joanna's based here. We want to work with you, and we'd be happy to connect anytime. Before we open the floor to questions, I want to thank Ken Chan and all our sponsors and speakers for bringing us together for an important and thoughtful discussion. Okay, then I want to thank you for your time. Really appreciate you being here. I think lunch is being served, so that's probably why we're not getting any questions. Never good to be in front of food. Have a fantastic rest of the conference. Have a good afternoon. Thank you, everyone.